Things continue to go south for the Flames as Mikael Backlund plays career game number 1,000. Hey everyone, welcome into Burning Questions, brought to you by Milani Heating and Plumbing, Calgary's first choice when it comes to plumbing and heating. And guys, it was a tough go for the Flames in Utah on Wednesday evening, a 5-1 drubbing as the Flames dropped their fourth in a row, all in regulation. Danny, it's been a rough go, as I've mentioned. What are you seeing from this team right now that has led to these 4 consecutive losses?
I mean, a little bit of everything is the answer, unfortunately. And so I'm not going to talk about everything. I'll leave some to Wes, although I don't know what he's going to say. I focused last night as I watched that game on the power play and the penalty kill. Over the last 4 games, the power play is, I believe, 0 for 10. I mean, that's a 0%. You can't get worse. And it's not just that they're not scoring or missing opportunities. I mean, they're having trouble with their zone entries. They really aren't generating any consistent pressure with the man advantage. And I think that has been a huge issue. And the penalty kill also has just not been great. They've allowed 5 goals on, I believe, 13 shorthanded opportunities over this 4-game stretch. Both of those stats were significantly better in their first 6 games. So I think that, I mean, this is basic hockey. You got to win on the power play and the penalty kill. The better team on those special teams units generally sort of wins, and that's not happening right now. There's a lot of other stuff that I do think is happening as well, but I think that those are going to be real areas of focus in practice as quickly as possible, because you just don't win, if the other team is better than you on both the power play and the penalty kill, ever.
I sort of split the 4-game losing streak into 2 and, look at that first pair of losses to the Carolina Hurricanes and Winnipeg Jets. You could say there were stretches of the game where the Calgary Flames played the brand of hockey they wanted to. And I think what's probably most worrisome, if you're Ryan Huska or, Craig Conroy or whomever, is that these past 2 games in Vegas and in Utah, it's just been a total abandonment of what the Flames need to do to be successful. Like there's an understanding within that locker room that they have to be hard to play against, that they have to be committed to the forecheck, that, they have to understand they don't have the sort of offensive weapons to outscore bad defense or a struggling penalty kill or whatever mistakes they might make. And I think the scary part is that the resilience or the we're not going away, that sort of stuff that's become a hallmark of this Flames team in the early stages of the season has just gone poof in the last 2 games. Like this team was, quite frankly, and I'm sure the Golden Knights and Utah Hockey Club would agree, this team was easy to beat on the road. And that's a problem for the Flames.
Well, on a more positive note, Mikael Backlund skated in his 1,000th career game in Utah. And Jerome McGinley, of course, the only other player to reach that mark as a Flame. Well, Wes, when you think back to how things started for him to where he is now, what stands out to you about his career?
Yeah, this one's been pretty neat for me. I got to tell you, 13 seasons on the beat now, a huge, stretch of that, obviously covering Mikael Backlund his entire career, and so, or my entire career, I suppose. It's neat because this isn't the guy who was guaranteed to get to 1,000 games. Mikael Backlund arrived to, really high expectations. People in Calgary will remember the decade-long search for a number 1 center, and he was going to be that guy. And so, he came into high expectations. He maybe didn't look like a sure thing right away. And, I've interviewed him about healthy scratchings and trade rumors. He spent time in the minors, and, I think that's the really neat thing about 1,000 games is this wasn't, the guy who got a bunch of points on the power play and was always guaranteed to play that many. He was, he's really put in the work as a shutdown center, and to see him hit this milestone and to see him do it all in a Flames jersey as the one guy last season of the pending free agents who said, yeah, I want to stay in Calgary. I'm committed to that. I do think this is a neat thing for the organization to be able to celebrate.
Yeah, I'm glad you went to West first on that one, because he has that experience over nearly a decade and a half, whereas I don't. I sort of was on and off for a couple of years, and it's really my 2nd or 3rd season covering the team full time. But what was amazing to me was, when Daryl Sutter was head coach and Mark Giordano had left, there was an ongoing debate here in Calgary. Daryl didn't name a captain. And when he was relieved of his duties, it was clear that, whoever was head coach was going to. And, we in the media love to debate, who could it be? Could it be Rasmus Anderson? Could it be, you name it at the time. And to admit, every one of those guys was like, no, it's Mikael Backlund. Like the respect that he commands in the locker room and around the Saddle Dome, there was never an actual debate. It was just something we had to talk about until he got signed and became captain. And I think that we've seen his leadership. Honestly, this is something that no captain should ever have to do. But after Johnny Gaudreau's death, when they held the candlelight vigil, Mikael Backlund, who it must have been so difficult standing up in front of thousands of fans and giving a speech on behalf of the players, that's true leadership. That's not just rallying the boys to get them ready for a hockey game. I honestly, if for some reason someone who's not a Flames fan is watching this far into the video and they have any questions about Mikael Backlund, we're not lying. This is a guy with a universal 100% approval rating. You never hear a bad word about him from anybody, and he's been great to cover for me in my significantly shorter than Wes time on the beat.
Yeah, well said. A remarkable career so far for Mikael Backlund. Lastly, old friend Jacob Markstrom will be back in town on Friday with his new team, the Devils. Markstrom coming off a shutout in Vancouver, so the revenge tour off to a good start for him. But on the flip side, you look at Calgary's goaltending right now, Danny, and it's not great with Dustin Wolf and Dan Vladar struggling. What's the confidence level that at least one of these guys can get back to where they were at the start of the season?
I'm going to stop you right there. I think every player should be afforded a bad game here and there. I didn't think Dustin Wolf was great yesterday. I didn't think Dan Vladar was great on Monday against the Golden Knights. But on my long list of concerns coming from those two games, their performances were, they barely even registered. To be honest, I do think goalies have bad games, especially when you don't have. And no one is saying that right now Dustin Wolf or Dan Vladar are sort of a top 5 or 10 goalie. I actually think that they've been one of the good news stories of the season. And if we allow us to sort of throw one game for each away, I don't think that they've been any sort of problem. And honestly, I mentioned a couple years, I covered some stretches where I had Jacob Markstrom telling me he sucked at hockey while he was here. So I honestly, I don't think we need to worry about a decline in the play of either guy at this point in the season. I don't think either of them have truly separated themselves. So we're probably going to be having this conversation well into January about who is their starter. But I don't know. I as a reporter, as a guy who covers sports, I can't take one performance and get too worked up about it.
Yeah, I agree with Danny that goaltending really before this road trip had been one of the Flames' biggest strengths throughout the season. When the Flames give up that goal last night in Utah with 1.7, 1.4, whatever it was left in the first period, it was actually, sitting there, I thought to myself, that's the first Dustin Wolf goal this season that I kind of go, he probably should have had that one. They really need a save there. And so, if you're 5 starts into the season and that's the first one that someone kind of cringes a little bit at, I think you're doing just fine. And I'd say the same about Dan Vladar. Certainly, this isn't going to be a case where Jacob Markstrom rolls into town and everyone's thinking, oh my God, why did they trade the number 1 goalie? These guys can't handle the job. Now, I will say, going back to the summer, that was a question with the Flames. If you were going to list the reasons that they might have a tough season, one of them was, well, we don't know about the goaltending. And so I think from a team standpoint, you just hope that these last 2 games where they did give up 10 combined goals behind a really leaky defense isn't a sign that those questions are sort of popping up, because we've seen the offense dry up. If the goaltending sort of goes the other direction, this skid could last a while. They need Vladar and Dustin Wolf to help pull them out of this.
Well, if you want to take it for a 1-for-1, even though it isn't, Jacob Markstrom with a .903 save percentage in 9 games this year, and the duo Wolf and Vladar .902 in 10 games. So it is pretty close. It's not as if you're losing a lot there without Jacob Markstrom between the pipes. And
if you went back before the road trip, and that would have taken you back before Jacob Markstrom's 20 save shutout last night against the Canucks, the Flames would have actually been leading in that category.
Yeah, it's been a decent season for the goaltenders, like you guys said. Hopefully the team can start turning things around beginning on Friday night against the Devils. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Wes Gilbertson and Danny Austin, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next.